homeostasis. And for us to be able to understand this concept, we look at this question. So we have a patient who has been admitted in the hospital or a health facility with a high fever of 39.5. So this patient has been exposed to heat for prolonged hours while working outdoors. A medical staff notices that the patient is actually sweating profusely and his heart rate is very high, and it is also complaining of dizziness. Okay, so the question that we have is that how can we explain how negative feedback mechanism happens in thermoregulation in response to a rise in temperature? And then the second question is that we identify the two components of the homeostatic system involved in this response and describe their roles. Okay, so with the concept of homeostasis, the interest of the definition of the term homeostasis is that it is a process by which the body keeps the internal environment stable or constant. The meaning of that is that within the body, you have a number of changes that are happening. Changes in temperature, changes to do with the concentration of, let us say, hormones, of ions, or even nutrients. But also, you can have external changes, changes in temperature, changes in moisture, changes in levels of oxygen, and things like that. So the body is subjected to these changes, both external and internal. But the body cells will always ensure that the internal parameters or the internal environment is kept constant. And these factors that have to be constant, that have to be kept constant, are quite many. Okay, so we have temperature, we have nutrients, like I've said, that is, for example, glucose. We have minerals. The minerals should be maintained at the right levels. And then you also have the amount of water. They have to be, the amount of water has to be kept within a particular region, a particular range. Okay, so you have a lot of things that have to be kept within a particular range. And in this case, the factor that you're talking about is change in temperature. And so here, what we are basically having is that someone has been working for prolonged hours outdoors under the sun. So that means that this person's body has been subjected to a lot of heat, and therefore their body temperatures are actually, the body temperature is actually high. And as a result of that, the body wants to make sure that this body temperature is brought to normal. We know that normal body temperature is around 37 degrees centigrade. And so when you have a temperature of 39.5, like for this patient, that is fever. Okay, that is hyperthermia. Okay, that is hyperthermia. So the body temperature is actually very high. So what the body does is to notice that there is an increase in the body temperature, and then tries to bring this body temperature to the normal ranges by instituting different mechanisms, including the things that we see in this patient, like sweating. Okay, when someone sweats, we expect that the evaporation of that sweat causes cooling, but you also have the heart rate increasing. That means that blood is actually being pumped to the surface of the skin, such that more heat actually is lost. And then you also have that feeling of dizziness happening. These are all consequences of making sure that the body temperature returns to normal. So that process is what we term as the negative feedback mechanism, where when there is an increase, the processes are set in place to bring about a decrease. Okay, that is negative feedback mechanism. And then for positive, when there is an increase, you have processes that also result into an increase of what has increased. Okay, so that is positive mechanism. But for this case, in thermoregulation, it is a negative feedback mechanism. It is the one which restores the internal environment to be within the normal ranges. So this whole homeostatic system, where you need to have a system that detects, okay, you need to have a part of the homeostatic system that detects the change, that is detect either the increase or decrease. So these are basically the receptors, okay, the sensory receptors detect this, okay. And we have, of course, we have several types of receptors, and in this case, the receptors that we are talking about are the thermoreceptors. Okay, we have pain receptors, we have baroreceptors, we have chemoreceptors. All these are receptors. They detect that there is a change here, and then they send impulses to the brain. Okay, in this case, the impulses are sent to the hypothalamus, and then the hypothalamus sends impulses to correct the temperature. So those impulses are sent to what we call the effectors. The effectors are the ones that will make sure that the action is actually implemented. And in this case, the effectors can include the muscles, can include the blood vessels, can include the glands, can include many things. So these effectors are the ones that can result into making sure that the temperature actually comes down, okay, including the skin and in relation to erector pili muscles and in relation to the vasodilation of the blood vessels. Okay, so when we talk about the components of the homeostatic system, we talk about the receptors, we talk about the brain. Okay, the brain is an important element in this case. So the brain in this case integrates the information from the receptors, and then obviously the central nervous system, and then you can have now the effectors. Okay, that is what you can have there. The central nervous system is basically the control center as a component of the homeostatic system. Okay, so that is the second part of that question, and then the first part is also explained.